The archivist drone hovered nervously as the council chamber's crystalline doors slid open. Delegates from 53 known species filled the auditorium scaled, feathered, chitin-armored, bioluminescent, gaseous, liquid, and the single carbon meat biped that had somehow been allowed entry. Hushed vibrations ran through the chamber as the lone human ambassador stepped forward, hands tucked casually into the pockets of his navy jacket. Ambassador Jonas Halley didn't look dangerous. He didn't act dangerous. In fact, he seemed perpetually mildly amused, as though the galaxy's politics were a particularly good stand-up routine. But the council knew better. They all did. Today's topic made the atmosphere thick with unease. The reclassification of humanity. The archivist projected a hologram into the center of the chamber, an intricate lattice of colors, shapes, and symbols. Recognized intelligent life forms are organized by threat index, it droned. Current tiers: harmless, moderate, dangerous, lethal, and apex. The apex symbol, a red triangle with a black core, rotated ominously. There is nothing above apex, murmured Counselor Vethal of the brood swarm. That classification exists solely to denote a species capable of destabilizing interstellar ecosystems. Several delegates nodded. Some twitched mandibles. A few pressed translation. Nodes nervously to their throats. Humanity had recently been suggested for the apex classification. Jonas scratched his cheek. Right, so quick question. His voice echoed easily in the chamber. What's above apex? The council went still. Above apex? Nothing was above apex. That was the whole point. A species labeled apex was the cosmic equivalent of a natural disaster wearing a passport. One didn't categorize it further. One simply survived it, or didn't, the archivist hummed anxiously, but Jonas' expression remained open, curious, almost playful. Counselor Rack of the Titan Shell Collective cleared his throat whistle. Ambassador Halley, he rumbled, apex classification is a warning, not a challenge. It denotes a species too dangerous to quantify in conventional metrics. Jonas' smile didn't quite reach his eyes. A warning to whom? The chamber shifted again, discomfort spreading like a physical presence. Humanity had only been on the galactic scene for 2 decades, yet they had rewritten half the standard models of military, economic, and scientific projection. They expanded aggressively, built rapidly, innovated unpredictably, and fought with a brutality that defied simulation. But what unsettled the council most wasn't the wars humanity won. It was the wars humanity refused to stop fighting. Jonas took a slow breath. Look, I understand your concerns. Truly, humanity doesn't exactly come off as cuddly. We're stubborn, reckless, and apparently alarmingly explosion-oriented. He raised air quotes at that part. But apex. That's a bit harsh, don't you think? You annihilated the Zereth supremacy in 9 solar days. Hissed Counselor Dreelan of the Luminant Shoals. They were enslaving 6 species. Jonas countered. And you threatened to glass their moons for ambiance? Jonas shrugged. Diplomatic hyperbole. That is not what hyperbole means, Dreelan muttered. Counselor Vethal rose, her spines clattering like knives. Ambassador, your species does not comprehend limits. When confronted with extinction-level threats, you accelerated your technology faster than predictive models could track. You learned quantum warfare in 2 years. You domesticated singularities? You weaponized mathematics? Jonas blinked. Okay, that one was an accident. The mathematicians got cocky. They compressed a star, Vethal snapped, only a little. A tremor of fear rippled through the council. The archivist flickered again. Humanity also demonstrates unprecedented behavioral paradoxes, self-sacrifice, cooperation, and extreme empathy toward non-human species. This combination is statistically unresolvable. Jonas tilted his head. We're compassionate and dangerous. That scares you more than if we were just dangerous. No one denied it. He continued softly. Everything we do, every breakthrough, every fight, every risk, it all comes from the same place. Survival, protecting our own, helping those who can't help themselves. That doesn't make us apex. He paused, then added dryly, "Not unless your categories are very outdated." Counselor Rack leaned forward, his heavy shell gleaming. "Ambassador Hale? What did you mean when you asked, what's above apex?" Jonah's smile finally faded. "Not in anger, but in honesty, I mean—" He exhaled. "You shouldn't classify us by how dangerous we can be. You should classify us by what we're willing to become if pushed," the chamber quieted. "You think apex is the top of the chart?" He asked. "Humanity doesn't. We've seen ourselves at our worst and survived it. Learned from it. We evolve from catastrophe. We adapt to impossible odds. We grow under pressure. If you corner us, we don't just fight." He stepped closer to the dais, shadows cutting sharply across his features. "We change." The archivist vibrated in alarm. Jonas' eyes held the weight of a species that had burned its own world and rebuilt it from ash. A species that had stared into extinction and clawed its way back with bloody fingernails. Because surrender was not in their vocabulary, he spoke quietly. But the air trembled. "Apex means the top, a peak, a limit. Humans don't really do limits. If you force us into a box labeled apex, we'll just climb out of it and build something new on top." The delegates stared. Jonas gave a small, almost apologetic shrug. "So I asked what's above apex because if you ever decide humanity is your enemy, you're going to need a word for whatever we become next." Silence. Then, unexpectedly, Counselor Rack bowed his massive head. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "what exists above apex is not a threat classification. Perhaps it is a responsibility classification." Jonas blinked. "Meaning?" "That your species is not defined by destruction, but by the potential to reshape the galaxy for good or ill. You are not merely dangerous. You are catalytic." A murmur of agreement spread. The archivist rewrote symbols in real time. A new icon took shape. A silver spiral ever ascending, no peak, no endpoint, new category, transcendental potential, it declared. Applicable to species whose evolutionary, social, and technological trajectories defy finite models. Jonas raised a brow. "That's a fancy way of saying unpredictable. It is a way of saying we acknowledge both your danger and your hope." "Oh," Arake replied. "And we prefer to stand beside you, not against." Jonas inhaled relief, deep and unguarded. "Well," he said, grinning again, "guess humanity finally got promoted." The chamber relaxed. Tension eased. For the first time in years, the council felt not fear, but something faintly like optimism. Humans may have been chaotic, flawed, and terrifyingly ambitious, but they were also the species who asked what was above epis, not to dominate, not to threaten, but simply to understand where they fit in a universe bigger than themselves. Perhaps that, the council realized, was what made humanity truly extraordinary. They climbed, and when they reached the top, they asked what came next.